Yo, what's up everyone, and welcome to another video. Today we're going to be looking at the patch notes for 3.14. I went over this on stream yesterday. You can check that out at twitch.tv/Kaoms. I'm currently live from evenings due to league start and wanting to put most of my hours into the evening instead of during daytime. So that's why I'm currently recording during daytime, and then I'll be playing in about 3 hours or 2 hours from when this video has been recorded. So by the time you're watching this, if you're watching this right as it comes out, I'll probably be live at Twitch. Link is in the description. Come check me out. Currently just doing some preparation for 3.14. Not really doing any practicing because my practices or my racing strats are so bad anyway that I don't think it's worth bothering with. Instead, I'm just doing some crafting and some prepping to hopefully make some currency and standard out of the changes. Okay, so I'm gonna be skipping a lot of the stuff that I personally find a little bit irrelevant. So something interesting to note here. This is the item filter blade information. Interesting things here is that there are going to be new body class armor, grasping mail. I'm guessing that's something with grasping vines. Sea glass amulet, no idea. Blessed boots, I guess mana implicit boots, not sure. Apothecary gloves, sounds like something related to flasks, or maybe immunity to poison or bleeds or something like that. Let me turn the music down a little bit. There. Artillery quiver. Yeah, I don't know. Eyelight ring, which has the chaos damage implicit, which wasn't that good. Okay. Here's the atlas, and here you get to see the tiers. Now we only really care about the higher tier maps, so we're going to be looking at tier 16s. Burial Chamber, Arachnid Nest, Pit, and Necropolis. Those are all pretty bad maps, so tier 16 is not the way to go, not the base tier 16s. We have Bog as tier 15, which is pretty good. Colonnade, which is pretty good. Yeah, so there's that. Let's move over to the patch notes. So here we just have the league starts. I want to keep this video somewhat short. A lot of the stuff we've already seen in the teaser that they showed us last week. So stuff like the changes to ritual, changes to harvest, changes to other league mechanics. We've all pretty much seen them before. I'm thinking about whether there was something interesting to be shown. I think the Shrine of Empowerment buff is pretty good. They didn't show that. Tier 2 Shrine of Empowerment now levels up one adjacent room, and the Tier 2 by 2 tiers. However, it's only the... Let's see. The Shrine of Empowerment in Room of Temple of Atzwedel now randomly empowers one connected room that is Tier 2 or below, and upgrades by 1 tier. The Sanctum of Unity now randomly empowers 2 connected rooms that are Tier 2 or below. So it gets them +1 level, even at Tier 2. However, then it's only 1, and at Tier 2 or at Tier 3, it will give 2 rooms that are adjacent, which is pretty cool. The Monsters Killed bar. This was kind of fucked because they only counted the monsters that were in there initially, not the Beyond monsters. So having that shown is nice, which means that the bar can possibly fuck up a little bit going up and down. This here is pretty interesting. I don't know why they bothered with that, but the fracture items no longer have a visual effect applied to them. So the 2D art of the item lost the visual effect. Interesting. Labyrinth changes. This I think we already saw, which is really good. They're giving us way easier time doing lab. Low life is now 50% instead of 30%, and then all these reservation things, I'm not sure what to think about that. To be quite honest, it didn't really bother me too much reading this. Here's the more interesting thing. So anger has been buffed by 10%, which is still complete shit. So anger is still bad. Berserk has been nerfed by 75%, which I think is very uncalled for. because of the other change they also did to Rage. I don't think 75 was the way to go. Now literally no one will use it. Blade Blast has been nerfed. It has lost about 25% of the damage and it lost some effectiveness. It's still a great skill. Like, this skill was completely busted. Along with Bladefall, this thing was so broken that it's only fair that it got nerfed, and it should have been nerfed way more. It hasn't been nerfed too much, so I think this is still a very good league starter regardless. Given that you're playing Bladefall Blade Blast. Trigger, though, if you were using Trigger with Bladefall, then that has been nerfed from 4 seconds to 8 seconds. So Blade Vortex now has a base duration for 4 seconds, previous 5. Now has a radius of +2, previously +4. Damage effectiveness 20, is that 25? Now deals 86 to 129 damage, previously 101 and 151. So about a 15% damage loss there. And of course this, and AoE loss, and the base duration nerfed. RIP. But personally, for me, they could make this a 2-second skill and it will still last long enough. The radius is of course a bit of a rip, but 2 radius is not the end of the world. If you were stacking PV AoE previously, then you're still in a really good spot regardless. I think it's rough, but it's still a really great skill because it's mechanically just so strong. Now for Bladestorm, they say what they did for this, but they don't say what it otherwise does, so I'm not sure what to think about that. I guess it didn't do anything in Bloodstance previously or something, or yeah, whatever. Now requires 35 mana reservation on the Flesh and Stone, previously 25. That's very bad for a lot of builds, because a lot of people were using this as an addition to their build, because they were using 2 big auras or 1 big aura, 1 herald, and then they had a little bit left over, couldn't use anything. Okay, Pog, Flesh and Stone, great. And it wasn't even that strong. Like, Flesh and Stone, if I had to make room in aura, it will be the first one to leave. So that sucks. I guess we don't get to reserve Flesh and Stone anymore. The Frostbomb exposure has been lowered to -15 instead of -25. Sure. It's more in line with the other sources of exposure, so I could see that. General Scry, Mirage Warrior is now channeled for a duration of 0.6 seconds, previously 1 second. So that's a bit of a buff, I guess. I have never played this, so I wouldn't really know. Cursed enemies now take 78% increased damage on low life, previously 88. This is done due to the low life change being 50% or lower, not 35 or lower. Overall, that actually looks like a buff though, because you have twice the uptime, or not really twice, it's a little bit higher, but this is only a 10% loss, so potentially this is good. Exert attacks now do 20% more damage per previously attack exerted by this war cry, a seismic cry. Previously 30, so that is a nerf. Spellslinger no longer grants supports from support skills granted by items. I didn't even know they did that to begin with, so let's go. No longer activates if there's no valid skills in the links. Also didn't know that was a thing. Carrion Golem deals 11% less damage and has a cooldown on his Cascade. Yep. The skill now also travels a shorter distance and has less area of effect. This sounds bad, but I think 6 seconds with the minion jewels, because I think they used cooldown jewels, and it will really not be a big difference as far as the cooldown goes. It just depends how big the AoE nerf is. Other than that, I think Carrion Golems are probably still good. Okay, Toxic Rain has been really butchered. So what they did with Toxic Rain is they made it so that the arrows also spread based on your AoE. Which means what previously was really good with Toxic Rain is that you had a very small arrow spread and very much AoE. So if you had enough AoE, then the pods from one side will overlap to the ones on the other side, which makes a really nice and consecrated damage source. But they changed that. They made it so the spread is also affected by area of effect. So now it doesn't matter if you stack AoE or you don't. It's gonna have the same spread probably throughout, unless the scaling is different, where the thresholds for AoE is different, which could be the case. If the arrow spread gets one area for every 20 AoE and then the pod gets it for every 10, it's still worth it. It's just significantly less. Each spore now applies 5% less movement speed to nearby enemies instead of 10, to a maximum of 30%, previously 60%. So that skill is pretty dead. Damage stays the same, but not really, because of this initial thing. You wanted them to overlap, but that's dead. So Toxic Rain, probably still a solid mine starter, but not as good. Because like if you start with it, you're not scaling any AoE anyway. So the AoE part only really comes into play when you're reaching endgame and you start to care about it. So for now, I think as a league starter, Toxic Rain is still really good, and it doesn't really matter. This is more of like an endgame nerf. So yeah, I wouldn't care too much about that. Maybe I'll still start as Toxic Rain Mines just because of that. Vigilant Strike no longer grants increased Fortify duration. Now grants Fortify on melee hit for 6 seconds at gem level 1, up to 11.7 seconds at level 20. Quality no longer grants Fortify duration. Quality now grants Fortify for 0 to 2 seconds on melee hit. So they removed duration, they gave it a base second duration instead. Cool. Sorry. Vitality now causes nearby allies to generate 193 life per second at level 20, previously 247. That's quite a big nerf, but at the same time, I personally don't think Vitality was that great. It was pretty strong because it's a flat number, but yeah, whatever. Okay, this one is pretty interesting. I personally like this, but now the Wave of Conviction now has added damage effective of 240%, previously 220. It's not a big difference really. It's like 8%, 9%, whatever. Exposure now applies minus 15 resist, matching to the highest damage taken. Previously 25. So obviously that is a bit of a nerf to the exposure. But I think the builds that would use this already had the exposure, or like already had a lot of pen anyway. Thinking of like Wave Conviction Miners, and then they buffed the physical damage on it by about 10%. So pretty good, maybe pretty good mind skill. Looks like it's about 15%ing more damage now on average, despite having the exposure lowered by 15% or 10% pen. But eventually pen has a diminishing return. I think a lot of builds nowadays do reach that level of pen anyway. Alright, now we're getting to the stuff that is more in my vibe, because I'm a very filthy Vowel build abuser, as my Peepo Duck here states, with the Soul Ripper and the Soul Catcher. So he's gonna come and watch for this. Vowel skills now can only be obtained from the set of specific methods such as Vowel side areas, divination cards, and the library lens at the Temple of Atsuedel. So no more corrupting for Vowel gems. You cannot use a Vowel orb on a gem anymore to get a Vowel skill. Is this broken? No, not at all. I don't think so. It just kind of forces you into doing this content, but are we really going to have to pay extra for stuff? Not really, because if you were playing an endgame Vowel skill build, you would already have your 2123 or your level 2120, which are really only possible from the Temple of Atsuedel anyway. 2123 is gotten by Delirium Orbs, which could be, if you're going to plan on playing a Vowel skill build, you might want to go pick those up, because that's getting nerfed. And 2123 Vowel is 3 different outcomes. It's the +1, it's the 3 quality, and it's the Vowel version. Temple of Atsuedel only does 2 of those, at most. Damaging unique enemies now grants 6 souls, previously 3. Per 2% life it loses, with a 1 second cooldown. Very good. Specific skills, Vowel Arc. No longer causes modifiers to buff duration to apply to its skill Soul Gain Prevention. Cool. Cast time 0.7 over 0.8. Soul Gain Prevention of 2 seconds instead of 6. Now, personally, I've never used Val Arc. I think it's kind of shit, but it means that you're not doing enough damage to kill something completely. So now here is the biggest buff in Blade Vortex history. The skill damage has been lowered from 496 to 413 physical damage at 21. Now has added effectiveness of damage 60% instead of 75. Here it comes. Now hits enemy every 2 seconds, but it has a base duration of 5 seconds, stores 2 uses, and a Soul Gain Prevention that's lowered as well. So despite having a lower hit rate and a lower thing, for poison, it will actually be better because of how long the duration is. And I'm thinking because it stores 2 uses and our maximum charge is always being 30, it's now going to cost 15 souls to release a Vowel Blade Vortex. Which means that if you have some Soul Gain Prevention, you can easily release 5 at once. And the fact that it has a lower hit interval doesn't really matter anymore at that point. Because they're also saying, like, yeah, it's going to hit slower, but you can have 2 of them out at once. So more spammy. So for Vowel Blade Vortex, if you're playing Poison, that's amazing. That's really good. I like it. It looks very pogging. Vowel Blight, I didn't know that still existed. Vowel Burning Arrow, it's whatever. Vowel Cold Snap has a really high X to Y damage of 1571 to 2356. That's a lot. However, I think the skill is mechanically deficient to the point where... Oh, I'm so tired today. I'm so sorry, boys. I think the skill is so bad that you can't really properly use it. It has a big AoE buff, so maybe that will carry it. Effectiveness of added damage of 350, that's a lot. You link that to Awakened Added Cold, that's going to be so good. So, very nice. Very nice. I hope mechanically this skill is playable. Because numbers are one thing. It has the numbers, but doesn't have the mechanic. Vowel Cyclone now deals 80% of base attack damage. Previously 50 and 99% at 20, previously 61. Now deals 300% of base attack damage, previously 400. Now expands 25 souls per use, previously 35. And now has a Soul Gain Prevention duration of 5 seconds. Now that actually makes me think, if I look into the game here, I wonder, because this one specifically says that it uses less souls, but the Vowel Blade Vortex says it can have stores 2 uses, so they might increase the cap of how many souls you can have in your... I'm not sure, we'll see. Vowel Fireball, unfortunately not doing anything with that. Kind of sad, I was using that, I really liked it. Vowel Flame Blast, very interesting, it's a big AoE buff, it already had a pretty huge AoE, it got even bigger AoE. So this is the only downside to it, but I don't think that matters too much for the Vowel version. This skill is amazing for like Ignite builds and shit. I played some Poison with it as well, it's pretty fun, it looks cool. But I think for Ignite this could be really good because of the 100% ailment damage as well. Ground Slam, cool, it's an attack. Vowel Ice Nova. Yeah, I think Vowel Ice Nova has gotten a significant buff. I think that's very worth noticing. 261 cold damage at level 20 over 428. That's a 33% damage buff. Cast time is a bit higher. Doesn't really matter too much, I think. It's just a quality of life thing. Effectiveness of added damage is 120 over 70. So that's a lot more. Like 40% more. Very good. Now stores 2 uses, previously 1. And has a Soul Gain Prevention of 2 seconds over 4. Very nice. I think Vowel Ice Nova, given that the League mechanic is suitable for it, I think Vowel Ice Nova is a great skill now. Mechanically, it's already good. I wish it got a bit of an AoE buff. Because that's the only thing I don't like about it. I have a lot of AoE, and my Val Ice Nova seems to still be extremely small. So I really wish there was like maybe a +2 radius in here somewhere, but unfortunately. Val Lightning Stripe is an attack, so we're not going to care too much about that. Val skill attacks are kind of whatever. Val Rain of Arrows. Let's do that one first. Fires 27 arrows, previously 17, and 33 at level 20, previously 21. Now fires 4 additional sequences of arrows. Maybe. No, I don't think so. It's an attack. You know, attacks are always going to suffer a lot from Val skills, so I'm not sure how I feel about that one in particular. Val Reeve expands 25, obviously base damage buff. Now stores 3 uses, previously 2. Has a soul gain prevention of 2 seconds. Cool, kind of the same general buff that they did to the majority of them. Val Rises Fire now deals a 99%. I don't know why I'm so tired. I'm so fucking tired for some reason. Now deals 99% of sacrificed energy, shield, and life as damage per second. Previously 180. Why? I'm not sure. They nerfed the dot version of it. Now sacrifices 60% of your total energy, shield, and life. Previously 30. Now grants 90% more damage. Previously 28. Now has soul gain prevention duration of 6. I'm not sure what they did with this, what they were thinking. I think the whole point of Righteous Fire is that it does damage over time, and then they nerfed the damage over time part, which no one used it for to begin with, so yeah. Val Power Siphon now grants 25% critical strike multiplier per power charge. Now has 50% increased critical strikes per power charge. Now stores 3 uses, has a soul gain prevention of 2. Pretty good overall damage buff, but I'm not sure if it's going to be that relevant. We'll see. It could be really good. Like, Val Power Siphon has definitely been good at some point, so. Val Spark just got a soul gain prevention buff of 1 second less. Val Spectral Throw is pretty fucking trash, so we'll skip that. Val Storm Cold, this one is huge, boys. This one is fucking massive. Now deals 125. Oh, wrong one. Here it goes. We're just gonna ignore the level 1 thing. 510 to 947 lightning damage at level 20. Previously 370 to 687. So this skill literally got like a 33% buff and higher effectiveness of added damage. So this skill was already really busted, but no one played it because it's a Val skill. Now it got even more poggers. Here's the part of Chainbreaker that I think is the bigger shit version. Now causes skills to lose +3 rage. So every time you use a skill, you lose 3 rage, but you don't lose 5 rage when you hit an enemy. Every 0.3 seconds. Now, if they would add this 0.3 seconds to the back here, like right there, I would be very happy. Actually, like, make this entire line. Let's just glue it there. Take this entire line, and then we glue it in the back here. Boom. This is really bad. Unlucky. I think Chainbreaker is broken. Corrupted Soul. Unnecessary, I think. You can pretty much get that much on a body armor as well. I mean, they stack, but you're giving up an entire jewel for this, so I think this is kind of a rip. Hardened Scars no longer grants 45. I don't think anyone actually used that. Okay. Here's the Atlas passive balance. I've been looking at this a little bit, but so much of the stuff is like swapped around. Like if you look at, for example, the Parademon, like it's been added here and removed there. So much stuff has been swapped around that even if I was to read through this, we would not get a proper idea of what's actually on there until it's visualized. So I think someone on Reddit will probably make a picture where they have like this visualized so we can see where the new ones are going and which old ones are staying. Okay, so we got an ascendancy balance. Not too much, I think. Notable in Gladiator is more bleed oriented now, or fizz damage over time oriented, because there are fizz damage over time skills and that are not considered bleeding. So that's just a change that they do. Same with Berserker, made him a bit more versatile, giving him increased damage instead of increased attack damage. Pain Reaver has been replaced with Defy Pain. Defy Pain. Gain Defiance for 10 seconds and losing life to an enemy hit. No more than once every 3 seconds. Gain Defiance for 10 seconds. But you gain it for 10 seconds. Why is there a 0.3 second cooldown? Okay, 25% increased armor per oh, you get what? Oh, you can stack this. Okay, 25% increased armor per Defiance. 50% increased maximum total recovery per second from Leech while you have Defiance. At 10 Defiance, take reflected physical damage equal to maximum life. What? Does this mean he kills himself? When you reach... This is how I read it, okay? In my head. When you reach 10 Defiance, you will take reflected physical damage equal to your maximum life. Then lose all Defiance. AKA, in more easy to read, at 10 Defiance, you take that much damage that it will kill you, which will cause you to lose Defiance. I don't know. Flawless Savage. Increased attacks, critical strike chance modifier now applies to both attacks and spells. Poggers. The added physical damage modifier now applies to both attacks and spells. Pog. Assassin. Now grants 50% more damage with hitting hits and ailments against enemies on low life, previously 25. This is done due to the low life change again. Overall, it is the same number. However, it is a bit of a buff in most cases because you're more likely to hit a threshold of 50% rather than 35. Because if you're playing Penance Brand, you can skip from like 36 all the way down to 0. Meanwhile, now if you hit somewhere in between 1 and 50, you will get the extra damage. So I think that's good. It's actually a little bit of a buff. On paper, it's not a buff, but in reality, it is a buff. Gladiator, Gratuitous Violence. Gratuitous. Whatever. No longer grants 20% more damage for bleeding. Now grants more physical damage over time. Cool. Elementalist. Primal Aegis now takes 75 damage per allocated notable passive. Previously 100. No idea what it is. Leech of the Primordial. It's no longer it's no longer possible to temporarily bypass your Golem limit. For example, if you use Golem, die very quickly. Half. Necromancer now causes you to regenerate 4% of mana over 2 seconds when you consume a corpse. Previously 8%. So that's RIP. Master Surgeon now removes corrupted blood when you use a flask. Fair. Okay, here's some interesting stuff. The item balance. I'll be putting different marks on the video where I'm reading different things. Because a lot of you probably came for the item balance and how I feel about that. Because as a standard player, you have a bit of a different point of view than people in League. People in League probably know a little bit more about what's good, you know. Meanwhile, I'm looking at what's profit or what's like worth doing right now. So Orb of Binding added to the core game as a basic currency. That's actually a tiny nerf to Nemesis currency, but we can probably not do that anyway. The Sacrificial Garb Body Armor now drops with a +1 level of Succulent Vowel Gems and Blizzard modifier. Existing items cannot gain this modifier. This is really good. Now, if you were to buy this, you can do this in League. If you were to buy this, use a Gilded Fossil that you corrupt it, you have a very easy way of potentially getting yourself a +3 Val skill chest, whether you get projectiles, AoE, duration AoE are probably the two big ones, because it literally applies to most skill. I guess projectile too. Like if you have Fireball, Spark, BV. It's either way. It's very easy to now make a good chest for Vowel BV or whatever. And mind you, if you use a skill that has the Vowel tag, then you don't have to actually use the Vowel skill. So if you want to make a Cyclone chest where you don't actually want to use the Vowel version, you can still put it in there. It still gets a +1. Pretty sure it does at least. Okay. The enemies you kill explode, dealing X% of their life as physical damage. Modifiers can no longer appear on Crusader Influence body armors or as synthesis implicits. To replace this, modifiers that grants enemies you kill have enemies you kill have an X% chance to explode, dealing 1/10 of their maximum life as physical damage, have been added. So, removed, added. Old, new. Existing items will retain at the existing modifiers will retain at the original modifiers and cannot be updated to the new modifiers. So it's a completely new mod. So Explode is gone legacy. Quivers can no longer roll global critical strike chance, global critical strike multiplier, global damage over time multiplier. Instead, they now roll critical strike chance with bows, critical strike chance multiplier with bows, and damage over time multiplier with attacks. Modifiers existing modifiers, my bad. Existing items cannot obtain the newer modifier through divine orbs. Existing items cannot, yeah. So you cannot divine it, which means they're gone legacy. So that is what I'm going to be doing for the majority of the day. I'm going to be making quivers like this. Because they're just really good for like Toxic Rain. There's still going to be people like Toxic Rain, but there's going to be Toxic Rain. Poison builds. Yeah. So, here comes the next thing. Hunter Influence Quivers can no longer roll the global physical damage, fire damage, or chaos damage over time modifiers. Instead, they now roll physical fire damage and chaos damage over time to attack modifiers. Existing items will be updated with the newer versions. So that's a bit of a rip on that. So you're gonna go ahead and go for the dot multi and then remove the chaos over time. Pretty simple. The corruption outcome on quivers now grants +1 skills chain +1 times. Modifiers have been removed. In place, it will add arrows chain +1 times. Existing items will be updated to newer versions. You can no longer craft % of physical damage converted to X damage modifiers on items that which already have the modifier. That is on synthesized gloves, I think. A physical damage over time multiplier has been added as a prefix to wands and staves. The physical damage over time modifier can now be rolled on cobalt jewels. Previously, it can only be rolled on viridian and crimson jewels. Elder Influence weapon that grants 60% chance for your poisons inflicted with hits to deal 100% more damage has been removed. In place, Elder Influence weapons can now roll with the new local poison damage over time multiplier modifier. Unless that's 60, I think this is still better because it's multiplicative. Okay, so here's the same wording, but for bleed. Hunter Influence modifier that granted increased damage with poison has been removed. A poison modifier that grants chaos damage over time has been added in its place. I'm not sure what that means. I don't know where you can have a Hunter modifier that has increased poison damage. I guess weapons? I think it's weapons. Elder Shaper Influence Ring can no longer roll increased melee damage, increased projectile damage, or increased spell damage modifiers as suffixes. Interesting. Probably because there's prefix versions of it. Sextant modifiers that grants players self-poison areas has been removed. So self-poison sextant is completely gone. Watchstones don't have any sextant modifiers applied to them, can be imprinted once again. Nice. You can no longer obtain the areas have +2 chance to grant Atlas mission completion modifiers on titanium. Instead, the 4 and 6% version of the modifier can still be obtained. I don't know why they would remove the low end. I guess it's better. Flask can no longer be influenced. Cool. That's been a nerf to the Treasurer's modifier, so no more fucking fat strong boxes, but I don't think that matters too much. And then these cannot have twinned modifiers. Essences, cool. Don't really care too much about that. Abyss Jewel Balance. Cool. This is all... I guess it's interesting. I'll leave a link to the patch notes in the description if you want to read it for yourself. But none of this is Gone Legacy, so it doesn't really matter too much. You gotta just have to deal with it. New oils for the enchantments on maps. And then here's some nerfs to crafted field modifiers. So mind you, these are crafted. The ones that you can get from Iceling herself are still going to be stronger. These are only the crafted versions of it. Some notable ones are going to be, for me at least, or well, just in general. This was good, 30% pen, 13% pen, my bad, down to 10. These were quite good, but I don't think anyone really actually used them too much. Kills damage over time multiplier from 40 down to 35. Let's see. The trigger 8, previously 4, but I think that's mechanical change, so I think that changes everything. Ailment avoidance lost 5%. Okay, and then this one is very notable, very good by the way. This here, 25% strength dex int or strength int, increased from 75, so that's actually a really big buff. Or 75? Increased from 17. A very big buff. As far as the unique balance, I don't think there was actually anything in here that was actually worth noticing. No, these are all pretty trash items, from what I could tell. These are some incursion unique changes, but they're all the lower end versions of the thing, so it's not that great. Yeah, I think that's about it. Some stuff that wasn't there, which I thought would be there, is the fact that they state that Explode cannot chain on itself, or it cannot apply ailments anymore. It doesn't seem to be in the notes at all. So I think that is also still as is. So mechanically, I don't think Explode changed then. Yeah. Seems good. I personally am not too bummed about this, honestly. There's a lot of good shit. Of course, we're all getting a little bit of a setback, but I think that's only fair because the game was a bit rough. The one thing that is kind of annoying is, of course, the fractured stuff, giving the split tag on the item so we cannot do deli maps anymore, which I think a lot of people saw as the only end game there was, and I think that's partially true. It was the kind of thing that you would just like farm and then don't really do anything else, and then they remove that without any replacement, which is a bit weird. So I'm not sure how I feel about that. Anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and wrap it up and say that these patch notes are pretty decent. I like it. Let me know what you guys think. Recovery has been untouched, although there was a initial idea that it would be there. Yeah, so a lot of stuff that I thought would get nerfed didn't get nerfed, and then some stuff that I didn't think would get nerfed did get nerfed. So I'm not sure about that. But it is as it is. So yeah, thank you very much for watching. I'll be live again in, like I said, about an hour, 2 hours. So once this video is live, I'll probably be live streaming. Link is in the description. As always, thank you very much for watching, and I'm going to be uploading another video tomorrow on some crafting of some items that I decided to invest into. So stay tuned for that. You can click the subscribe button below the video, I think it is, to get updates of when I upload a new video. Thank you very much for watching and have a good day.